I'm Paul Van Squike of Taekwondo Guide, and this is Topic Tuesday. If you've never turned on a Topic Tuesday before, this is just a dialogue, just a conversation between you and I all about Taekwondo. There's no editing here, so you know what I recommend? Take some headphones, put them in, and listen to this. Get some chores done. That stack of dishes over there, take care of it while you listen to some wonderful information all about Taekwondo. They say cleanliness is next to godliness. Clean up your messes and learn about Taekwondo at the same time. You know what? That's a great segue to our first question, which is from Arthur, who writes, is there a conflict between the Taoist influence of Taekwondo and the beliefs of Christian practitioners? If you haven't yet, I strongly recommend checking out my video called The Mystical Meanings of the Taekwondo Trigrams. This goes into some of the Taoist influences in Taekwondo. Check that out. It's actually, I think, one of my best videos. And it's weird because when I put it up, like all my videos were doing incredibly well. I had, one's over 500,000 views now. And when I put this one particular video up, it like completely tanked my channel. After that, all my videos were like around 1,000 to 3,000 views. It was crazy. And I really didn't change a whole lot about the videos. Just that one video came out and boom, everything changed. Now, was it demons? I talk about occult stuff in the video. Hey, you be the judge. All I can tell you is my channel's never been the same since that video. But let's get into this topic. Now, in full disclosure, I don't know that much about Taoism outside of some surface level stuff. Things that you'd read in a quick overview sort of book on the subject. I am a Christian Taekwondo practitioner. I don't think that Daoism and Christianity can exist together. I don't think you can be a Taoist Christian, in other words. Now, I'm sure someone in the comments would love to debate me on that, and that's fine. I'm absolutely open to hearing your reasoning there because Taoism is not my area of expertise. But if you look into, and I'm going to lump this into what I'd call a pagan religion, and yes, Taoism contains this element, there's always something with the summoning of a spirit, of an entity, of getting another entity to do your bidding. And a lot of this got hashed out in the turn of the millennium from BC to AD with the early church fathers, because they were existing in a time where paganism was transitioning to Christianity. And Western esotericism, the pagan beliefs of the West, seem very similar to those of Taoism. And so different church fathers kind of had different opinions about, which parts of these things had to do with demons and which didn't. I can't give you an opinion about that myself. It's a very complex subject matter, and I'd love to hash it out more with you guys if anyone knows more about this subject. But what I can say just surface level is that if you are a Christian practicing Taekwondo, the Taoist influence is negligible. In fact, I have Korean instructors, and they are Catholic, and they come right from Korea. And the Taoist influence is not something they have ever emphasized very strongly outside of things that are basically more universal principles like balance. So it's all in what you give power to. If you're not giving power to those particular religious roots, it's really not a big part of modern Taekwondo practice, nor do I think it was ever a big part of Taekwondo practice, other than some of the things in Taekwondo have symbolic representations of these Taoist ideas. That's about it. So I wouldn't be too concerned about it. Most of what we do in Taekwondo, if not all of it, is perfectly compatible with Christianity and can be used to strengthen your Christianity. All right. If anyone has something to add on that, that's a topic I would love to talk through more. But let's get into the next question from Sideways OJ, who writes, I have another Selfish Topic Tuesday question or suggestion. So far, I have been complimented on being able to learn Poomsae quickly. However, I do have a problem with them. I seem to be easily distracted and will choke or make mistakes depending on what's going on in the room, or even just the number of people that are watching. My best performance of a pattern is often when it is still fairly new to me, rather than after I have been practicing it for months. Isn't that interesting? It doesn't consciously feel like stage fright, but maybe I have some unconscious performance anxiety. Not sure. Any thoughts or advice would be appreciated. It's really interesting that the more you practice the form, the more difficult it is for you to perform it without having a mistake. You know, I ran into this situation once. There was a time when I had done enough competing and demonstrating that some of the other Taekwondo instructors in my area would watch, and they thought, oh, this guy's pretty good with Poomsae. And one even had me out to do a seminar for his school, which was a huge honor. You know, I was just incredibly flattered by that. And here's what's really weird, right? After I did that seminar, I went and did a competition, not too long after, if I remember right, and I'm out there doing the form, and there's people like competing against me that attended my own seminar, and people judging me, all these things that have sort of known me for a while now, and they've got this reputation of me built up in their mind. And I get out there, and I completely freeze on the form, as in like can't finish it. Now, like, I've flubbed a form plenty of times, and I just keep going, and you act like it didn't happen, and sometimes they don't notice. This time, no, it was like I stopped, and I was done with the form. And I had a bunch of students there watching, too, and it was incredibly embarrassing for me. And I think the reason for it was that, kind of like what you're saying, I had done enough in the community where I started to build a reputation, and then the stakes got raised. So, you know, I made an attempt again, made sure I went out and competed again relatively soon after, so that I could make sure I had punched through that barrier. But, you know, when it comes to performing like that, I've always had an issue where it is easy for me to choke and skip a piece of a form unless I'm regularly performing and demonstrating. And I guess that's what I would suggest to you. If you get into the habit of regularly demonstrating your form to groups of people, I think that will be a tell for you. So maybe ask an instructor if you can at least once a week get up and demonstrate, try to do some competitions, and do this for about 3 months and see if your mistakes start to diminish. See if that improves your situation. If that doesn't improve anything, you might want to talk to someone, because you may have some weird unconscious stuff going on there, and that's outside of where I could help you, obviously. But I think exposure therapy is the first option that I would try. Just practice performing. You can practice the form all the time, but performing it is a whole nother thing. It's a different feeling. Give that a try. Report back to me, see how that works. All right, next question from Demon Wolf 570. I have a question. Do you think it's possible to learn Taekwondo at a decent level without a dojo or teacher? Like if I only relied on videos and apps to teach me? I've been practicing by myself for about a year, and while I definitely am better with kicks, they're only basic ones. I haven't even attempted the fancy ones yet, and since I'm still recovering from twisting my knee about 5 months ago, that's why he hasn't done the kicks. Also, I don't mean learn as in to become a black belt, but maybe an upper, lower red in skill. upper or lower red in skill. So he's basically saying, is it possible to learn without practicing in an official dojang or with a group of people with an instructor? Can he just learn from videos? Okay. Yes and no. First, if you have an athletic foundation already established, like if you're already a gymnast or an expert in dancing or something like that, it's going to be a lot easier for you to understand your body and dissect the videos and coach yourself through the techniques that you see in these videos. If you have no sense of yourself in space yet, then you probably need to develop at least some sort of athletic foundation with the eyes of a coach watching. Once you understand your body and how it moves in space, and you have a critical eye for movement, you certainly can do a lot by watching videos and using apps. What you can't get are the reflexes. Unfortunately, you cannot earn martial art reflexes without having other people to train with. So you can certainly build a really good physical foundation. You can get the fitness elements of doing the techniques and get good techniques down. But as far as being able to use those techniques, you won't have a whole lot to go on. Now, if you have no option, if all you can do are look at videos and use apps, there's no one to train with, there's no dojang near you, hey, that's better than nothing. Keep doing what you're doing. Sounds like you did it for a while. You know, a lot of people couldn't even do it for that long without having a group to motivate them. So keep doing what you're doing. And if you do end up getting to train with a group, you're going to be a lot better off having prepared a little bit with these at-home sessions than if you hadn't. But in terms of developing reflexes, you have to have someone kicking and punching back at you. And you have to have people moving around, doing your target drills. That's all necessary for building those quick action reflexes. All right, next question from Sean Liva. A topic I would like to see for next week would be what it's like instructing Taekwondo classes and what some of the most effective drills and teaching methods you have are. What is it like? You know, when I first started teaching, my classes looked totally different from how they look now. I had just gotten a black belt. I was, I think, 18 years old at that time. And for me, the class was, let's put it this way. I looked at a class as what would be good for me as a black belt, not what would be good for the student at the time. I assumed that those were the same thing, but they're not. And so I was 18, I was a black belt. I thought the most important thing was to be physically demanding. So if a student could barely walk out of the class, that was a good class in my book. That means I pushed them physically really hard. It was a pretty good workout. But it wasn't structured and it didn't have the progression in techniques that they would have needed for it to be an optimal class for them. Now, of course, I learned, and as I became a professional instructor, I kept watching how my students reacted to different teaching methods. And I came to the understanding that you have to teach to benefit the bulk of people, not the 1 or 2%. So if there's a method that I thought was personally really good, but it wasn't benefiting the student body as a whole, then it wasn't the best method. And usually what that was going too fast, introducing too much content too quickly, having too wide a breadth of information that I covered. Because let's face it, most people train twice a week. They don't do very much at home, and they're not here for that long, maybe an hour and a half, right? So in order to benefit those people, I restructured my entire teaching methodology so that they could best get the material down. And basically what I ended up coming up with was building a giant clock. If you think of those old, like Enlightenment era clocks that show they have the time You've got minute hand, second hand, hour hand, then you've got the constellation movements, and then you've got the movements of the moon. You have all these different things going on. That's what it looks like with my techniques. So in a month, I'll have like the second hand going will be class warm-ups. It's rotating all the time. So each class, doesn't have the same warm-up. That changes. It gives the class a unique feeling each time. But then there's things that maybe stay the same for a straight month, so that students who aren't here 4 or 5 times a week are learning the content. And eventually this clock cycles through the entire thing. So some of it they see a lot, like the warm-ups. I have 3 warm-ups. So in a month they're going to see all the warm-ups. They just change every week. But then in maybe a year's time, they'll have been through the entire spectrum of techniques. What that does is it covers everyone. When they get to a belt test, they should have been through all the stuff they're supposed to know. So it covers my butt as an instructor in terms of having covered the material that a student's supposed to know. And it hits them over the head enough with it where it usually sticks in their head. It stays in their brain. They don't forget as easily. It's balancing what's best for them in terms of what gives them the information with making a class that's entertaining enough where they're going to keep coming back. Because unfortunately, let's face it, if nobody comes to your class because it's boring, then none of this matters. You have to make the class entertaining to some extent. And so you can't do exactly the same thing every time. That's what this clock system was designed to do, and that's going to look different school to school depending on what your curriculum actually is. As far as drills that I find incredibly useful, hey, check out my sparring course. In United States dollars, it sells for only $14.99, and in it are my favorite, what I found to be the most useful sparring drills ever that I've ever come across. If you want to see some good drills, check that one out. If you buy it and you're like, ugh, I knew these already, this is no big deal, just tell me, I'll refund you, no problem. But I think you'll enjoy those drills. All right, next question comes from Super9149, who writes, I'd like to hear a topic on the value of leadership. Leadership is critical to Taekwondo. If I had to define leadership, someone just asked me to do that. Funny enough. If I had to define it, I would say it's service through guidance. So you're trying to guide others so that there's another generation of whatever it is you're teaching. In terms of Taekwondo, if the current set of leaders dies away and fails to pass on what they know, then Taekwondo either diminishes in quality or ceases to exist. The goal of a leader is to continue propagating what they learned from their teacher and maybe improving upon it a little bit on the way. Now, leaders, this is all stuff that is common sense. They should lead from the front. In other words, if they ask a student to do something, it should be something that they themselves were subjected to or that they are currently subjecting themselves to. So if they tell a student, practice this many times, it should be something that they're currently doing or at least did when they were in the student's shoes. I think that's the big one, is leading from the front. Now, assuming the leader is doing everything they're supposed to do, I think the big emphasis I'd like to spend a little time on in terms of leadership is what the student themselves should be doing. Because I think if you are a student and you approach the training from the standpoint of someday I'm going to be leading this, then you'll absorb it a lot better than if you just come to class to get a little entertainment. If you view your rank as basically having a sort of mastery of the material underneath you, in that, let's say you're a yellow belt, which in our system is the second rank, that if you're a yellow belt, you could teach a white belt everything they need to know about white belt. That's how you should approach the training. You should approach it from the standpoint of trying to be a leader yourself and responsible for the information you learn and then carrying it forward. All right, next topic. Mike and Lisa Banjo. Mike and Lisa Banjo Fiddle, who's written in before, writes, "Thanks for the video, sir. I'd like to hear a topic on training as you age and not being able to perform all the techniques but still persevering." I understand this very well. It's very discouraging when the class is asked to do something and it's not something that you can do anymore. Maybe you used to be good at it and you can't do it anymore. Or maybe you started with an injury and it's something you could never do. Nobody likes to be in that situation. But the fact is, all of us have limitations built in. All of us have strengths and all of us have weaknesses. And Taekwondo is a very broad set of skills. Very few people are total masters of every aspect of Taekwondo. I'm not. I could never do a 540 kick. I tried for quite a while and I could never get that one down. I'm not much of an acrobatic type. Now, could I have gotten it with enough time? Perhaps. But I preferred to take the things I was good at and spend more time emphasizing those rather than take something that A, I wasn't naturally acclimated to, and B, I didn't really like practicing. I'd spent my time doing things again that I felt were more valuable for me to spend time on. So let's look at how that could affect your training. Let's say you're in a situation where you have a knee injury and a lot of the kicks become more difficult. Maybe you can't do turning kicks anymore. We'll spend that time instead working on the hand techniques in Taekwondo. There are many hand techniques, even though they're not as emphasized as the kicks in all of the schools due to the sport nature of the sparring. There are quite a few techniques that you can work to become more proficient in. Maybe you find a few other people who can't do the spinning kicks very well anymore, and you start your own little side club of people who work on the more upper body oriented techniques found in Taekwondo. You know, Taekwondo has just as many hand techniques as karate. You can work on getting good at those. Outside of just the training part, you can work on the leadership, like we talked about in the last question. So, Taekwondo needs referees. Taekwondo needs instructors. Taekwondo needs people on boards doing government work, like managing different bodies of organizations. So there's lots of ways you can serve the Taekwondo community that don't even relate to techniques. If you're so sick and hurt that kicking and punching just isn't feasible anymore, can you referee? That's one great way to help provide a quality environment for young, up-and-coming Taekwondo athletes. We need good referees. We need good coaches. We need good instructors. So if you're good at one of those things or drawn to one of those things, that's an area that you can dump all of your energy. And when you have something to shoot for, that's when it's not so discouraging, because you're thinking about what you can do instead of thinking about the things you can't do. And that's the key to it. All right, let's see. The last one we have today from the Mammies. Some of these I don't know if I'm even close to saying them correctly. Vamammies, who says, "Hi, thanks for this. Off topic, but yesterday I realized that my quadratus laborum muscles were holding me back. I found out a great stretch for those, and later the evening all of my other stretches were improved. It's staggering how some puny lower back muscles can affect basically every other muscle in your body. I would like to hear your input on stretching, warming up through the day, and the dangers of sitting too much. Yeah, it's great that you found that stretch. First, if you haven't, I would recommend everyone see a physical therapist if you're involved in any kind of athletics, or just generally speaking, because all of our bodies are different. We all have little idiosyncrasies that we need to have identified by someone with know-how who can tell us then what stretches and strength training exercises we should be focusing on so we can maintain optimal health. It's way better than letting something hurt you and then going. And a lot of times you can get in for even a free screening and have someone assess you and see what kinds of exercises you should be doing in the first place. Some people don't need to be stretching in certain ways, but they could use strength training. And so in his case, the mammies, I don't know, he, she, in their case, it was a particular stretch that solved a lot of the problems they were having. So if you can do that, find someone to assess you. Now in terms of warming up throughout the day, dangers of sitting too much, well, when it comes to warming up throughout the day, it really comes down to, again, knowing the specific things that you should be working on for your body. When it comes to sitting too much, yes, generally speaking, we sit too much in the West. We sit too much. We eat too much junk. We watch too much TV. We do all kinds of things that are not great for our health. So reducing our sitting, reducing our bad eating habits, all of that is going to be better for optimal health, obviously. I'm lucky because I don't have to sit nearly as much as I would if I had an office job. I don't think I could tolerate an office job. And if I had an office job, I'd definitely find a way to make sure I was moving every single day for a good hour, because I don't know, that would just feel like I was destroying my body otherwise. I think one of the most underrated activities is walking. It's got virtually no degradation on the body. We're all designed to do it, and it's great for your health. And it's not so intense that you don't look forward to it. Like, always sounds nice to go take a walk. Doesn't necessarily sound nice to go take a run. Walking is a great form of exercise that you can easily insert throughout your week that really does help optimize your health and just reduce the negative effects of sitting too long. Hey, thanks so much for all the questions. Sorry that this was 2 weeks late. You know, I did record this last week, but then I found out my microphone wasn't turned on, and I tried recording it again, but it just fell apart, so I had to give it up last week. So sorry about the gap. If you would like to reach out with your own topic, please just drop it in the comments below. I'd love to discuss it. And until next time, enjoy your Taekwondo training and journey.